Hi everyone, thank you for being here today. This is my Module 4 presentation on culturally responsive instruction and behavior support practices. So here at Livingston Public Schools, this is just a screenshot of our enrollment and our demographic information. We are a predominantly white district. As you can see here, we have 52.2% white. 35.4 Asian and Pacific Islanders, 4.6 Latino, 4% Black, 3.4% two or more races, and the rest. The district actually just starting to become more and more diverse over the years. We were predominantly mostly white and Asian, but we are now having more African American students and Hispanic and Latino. What is culturally responsive instruction? Culturally responsive teaching is when you are pretty much using the students' cultural experiences in your daily instruction. So as a teacher, it's really important to get to know your students, get to know where they come from, and use their experiences in your daily instructions on how you teach them. Embrace their language, embrace their cultures, embrace their families. Ask them where they come from, get to know them, get to know how to pronounce their names. Creating a classroom environment that represents, their culture and respect for all of your students, and really communicating what your expectations are for everybody. So really making sure that you are providing a welcoming environment for your students. Culturally responsive teaching is really culturally responsive. It's not about just one day of celebrating a certain culture. So you're not just gonna the first day of school, you're gonna welcome your students, and then the rest of the school year, you don't embrace them, you don't really ask them about their cultures anymore. So you really want to continue that every day. So it's about really a daily practice that brings students' culture into instruction, valuing each student, and what they bring into your classroom, and teach them, as people in order to maximize their potential as your students. Some culturally responsive instruction methods that, we use. High expectations. I mean, we always have to make sure that we have high expectations for our students. Positive relationship with families and community, really important for us to create a positive relationship with the students and their families and also the community. Cultural sensitivity, we need to create that, understanding their cultures, understanding their backgrounds, and be sensitive to that. Create a student-centered classroom, create a welcome environment in your classrooms where kids are feel welcome. Active teaching methods, teacher as a facilitator, student control portion of the lesson. So make sure your kids are engaged into the lessons and they're participating, and make sure that you're creating a respectable environment for all of your students to work in teams and participate, and understand that every student in your class understand each other's backgrounds. Instructions around group and pairs, again, put your kids in groups so they can get to know one another. Communicating goals with students, make sure you clearly communicate what your goals are for your classroom and also what your goals are for your students, and also understand how to pronounce your kids' names correctly. And I know sometimes we have a lot of students that we meet, they come from different cultures and different backgrounds, and we try to pronounce their name the American way, and sometimes it's not the way their names are pronounced. So please, it's important to go to extra steps. Ask them, how do you pronounce your name? And even for myself, like my last name is Desamore, so when kids see my name, they typically don't know how to pronounce their names. So I always make sure that even like staff members, I have to correct them on how to pronounce their name. So someone's name is really a part of their cultures and where they come from, so it's really important to understand how to pronounce their names correctly. Behavior support practices, make sure that you are responding to their behaviors effectively, that you are actively engaged in their learning, enhancing staff members' cultural knowledge. You teach about cultural dimensions such as expressiveness, interaction between generation and language, enhancing staff members' cultural self-awareness. So not just for students, also understand like your staff members' cultures too, like where they come from. That has a lot to do with the school environment as well. Validating other people's culture, so validate where people come from, the language that they speak, the kind of food that they eat, making sure that students' cultural identity is acknowledged rather than the color. Don't be color blind. So just because you see someone a different color, a different race, like just, make sure that you understand, what their background truly is. You don't want to assume that you know what it is. Ask them. Increasing cultural relevance, establish cultural validity, and emphasize cultural equity in which differences are acknowledged and also accommodated. So who is responsible for seeking out students who would benefit from these methods and practices? We are, as educators, we are responsible to ensure that all of our students benefit from all those methods and practices. It is our job to make sure that, they all, take advantage of all of those practices. So which students in your school classroom would benefit the most from cultural responsive instructions and behavior support practices according to the research? In my school specifically, at Livingston, I think that our African American students can definitely benefit from that, or Hispanic students definitely can benefit from that. We also have a big ELL population students at our schools. They can definitely benefit from that as well. Our special education students can also benefit from all of those as well. Our student with disabilities can benefit from those, and also low-income students. We may be a predominantly white district, but we do have some low-income students that I think would also benefit from all of the cultural responsive instructions and the behavior support practices as well. Which of the methods and practice you identify would be the most effective and easiest to implement now? I think that high expectation is always something that we strive for in this district. Make sure that you survey your classroom environment and active teaching methods. Building positive relationship with families in the community. I think that, establishing the relationship and maintaining the relationship is important. I know as counselor, this is something that I always strive to do, creating that rapport with students and family and try to maintain that. So when you lose that rapport, it's always hard to get it back. So definitely create that relationship with your families and understand them. It does really make your job a little bit easier. Again, pronounce their names correctly. That's something that me personally, that means a lot to me, because I'm from a different culture and different background. And when people pronounce my name incorrectly, so I know that either they don't really care to know or whatever the case might be. So I think that you may not see that, but your students, their names means a lot to them. It's part of who they are. Tap into the students' culture. It might sound repetitive, but really get to know your students' culture. You can simply ask them, what language do they speak? What kind of food do they eat? You're not offending them. You're just curious and you just want to know. Culturally responsive instructions at Livingston. We do social emotional learning. That is something that we're really, really big on here at Livingston. We have advisory groups at Livingston where we discuss, talk about, different cultures and things. We have community lessons where we're starting to incorporate more lessons about cultural diversity. We have an equity team that we built, started last year. And this year we are building an equity club for students so we can promote equity and access, communicate with, and work with parents and guardians on a regular basis. Again, when you create that positive relationship with the parents and communicate with them, it does make your job a little bit easier. Establish a culturally inclusive atmosphere, and then also ongoing professional development for staff. There can never be enough professional development for all of us to keep learning about all of these things. What can we do right now? Get to know our students, really get to know them, not just, do like a little activity on the first day of school and in the rest of the year you just go on about your teaching. Really get to know them, get to know and understand their cultures. Make sure that they feel welcome, right? Make sure that their culture is relevant in your classroom no matter what their background is. Understand how to pronounce their names, understand their family backgrounds and where they truly come from. Get the faculty members to be more engaged in learning about different cultures. We want our faculty members to know about the different cultures that exist in our school. And also we want to start to hold teachers accountable, making sure that they are being responsive to all of these things. Recognizing good behaviors in your classroom, and make sure that you are reviewing like our policies and procedures, with the students, and also invest more time in professional development as well. There can never be, too much professional development. And this was my presentation, and here are my references, and I will see you for the next presentation.